Well, some experiments that you can do with them. Pour a small handful of different colors silly squares into a cup of water. Wait 3 hours. What happens? Do the colors change or blend? In less than a day, silly squares will expand 100 of times their size as they grow to large, jiggly, wiggly squares. A cup full of water will result in very large silly squares. The colors don't change or blend. They remain as they were when hydrated with water. Add silly squares to a cup filled with ginger ale, Sprite, or something carbonated. Do the squares hydrate? What are the bubbles in the glass? Watch the silly squares for about an hour. Do you notice anything? Try hydrating silly squares in different temperatures of water. Compare hot versus ice-cold water. Which water speeds up the absorption process? Do hydrated silly squares bounce? What effect does cooking oil have on silly squares? Add silly squares to a few tablespoons of oil. Wait 1 hour. What happens? Try freezing and melting silly squares. Do this after the silly squares are hydrated. Put a few silly squares in a freezer for a few hours. Add a few silly squares to boiling water. Microwave silly squares. Do silly squares freeze? Do they melt? Try bouncing a silly square that was placed in boiling water. Does it bounce? This is cooking oil. We're putting them in.
Can you move it over here or something? I want to be able to see too. Oh my gosh, we need more oil. It's not much.
Whoa, look at this blue one. That's so cool.
I know, blue's my favorite.
The blue's already starting to do it in this one.
Hey, these are silly squares. This is what they look like after an hour. And this is what the ones that we put in water look like after an hour.
Put them on the towel.
Don't they look pretty? Hey, we're back with the silly squares again, and this is what they look like after a couple days. Pretty big. And then we microwave some. You should see what happens for yourself. If you put them in there for like a couple hours, or minutes or something, well, really, it just breaks. It's very fragile once you do it. It's kind of like glass.